what do you think of the embassy closing in Houston? And then I want to go to Lee.
Well, I think that there's Houston is not one of the major embassies in the United States, but it does house the Chinese government for 5 states in the United States. What this in fact does is if I'm a Chinese person, a Chinese national, and I'm overworking in the United States, it would be nice to know that I have an embassy that I can go to if I run into problems, because an embassy is actually Chinese property in that country. Just like it would be a Canadian embassy in China or a U.S. embassy in China if you run into problems. So what they've in fact done is taken that away. International law states that these embassies have a special privilege in that country. The United States, with assumptions and basically they just say something and that's it. There's no rule of law. They don't prove it. Nobody's charged. Nobody has been found guilty. It sort of goes back to the same thing as what happened in Iraq. Weapons of mass destruction. Somebody says this weapon. Oh, they have this, and they go in and they start a war with a country. They basically destroy that country because they say this, and then at the end of the day, it's not that. If just say Iraq was a bigger country and they actually won that war, they wouldn't be hauling Saddam Hussein out of a basement and hanging him. That would have been George Bush. You know what I mean? So the winner is always the person that gets to call all of the shots. And I think you've seen this through the United States, on a regular basis, where they can pretty well do whatever they want because they've got 800 military bases around the world. They've got 400 that surrounds China alone. They can say this, they can say that. They can do things that they don't have to answer to anybody. And I think that that's a problem. Now China's not Iraq. China's the second largest economy in the world. China has 1/5 of the world's population. That's just in mainland China. That's not talking all of the Chinese people that have moved to all the corners of the world,
right,
and still identify as Chinese. So I'm looking at this and saying, geez, you've started an economic war with China. The rhetoric that comes out of people's mouths, like Mike Pompeo saying that, we're just helping the Chinese people. We want the Chinese people to be free, the free world. They use those words. They look at the Chinese government as a regime, but I don't know. Chinese government has done so much good for everybody in the country over the last 20 years. But you see, the problem is so large that just shutting down one little embassy here and one little embassy there, I think, is just one of the things that just escalates this thing between China and the United States, or China and the rest of the world. And the more it goes on, and if they say espionage, those Chinese are, they're committing espionage. Well, remember Edward Snowden? You know what I mean? Remember the United States spying on Angela Merkel, spying on Spain, spying on Brazil, spying not just spying on their enemies, but spying on their allies also. The idea that they were doing the same thing in Hong Kong out of their embassy. So why didn't China shut down the Hong Kong embassy? Why didn't Germany shut down the embassy in Berlin? Why didn't and it goes on and on and on. So the Americans take it to the extreme when it comes to China, and I think they made a mistake with the Houston thing.
I think it is it's 100% the Trump administration that pushed this instead of all the Americans, to be honest. But I want to move over to Lee. Lee, I think there's a lot of people that want to hear you on this topic before I move over to Cyrus, and I'm leaving Cyrus for last because there's a lot of people finding him interesting. So Lee, can you fire away? What's your thoughts on this closures of embassies?
Yeah, so I've got a couple of points I'd like to make. The first point, that the reason that was cited by the US for closing the Houghton embassy was mainly espionage. Now, that I don't know how long that embassy's been there, but it's been there for many, many years. And I don't think people need to kid themselves that it's just the Chinese who involve themselves in espionage. And I think that because of the status that diplomats who visit or reside in these embassies have, they're obviously the people to, move espionage and information around. And this happens in every embassy throughout, from every country throughout the world, because they have something called diplomatic immunity. So when they go through customs, their bags do not get checked and searched. So pretty much they can take anything backwards and forwards. And those embassies are also the ears and eyes on the ground in those foreign countries. So, for example, if the UK has an embassy in, say, Canada, there'll be diplomats there that are keeping an eye on what's going on in Canada, the same as Canada will have an embassy in the UK. They will have ears and eyes on the ground to see what's going on in there. So, I think it's ridiculous when the USA say, we're closing it because the Chinese were committing espionage. The US have one of the largest espionage operations in the entire world. And as Gweilo just said, that was uncovered by Edward Snowden a few years ago. So it's just a joke. The reason the Chengdu embassy was closed was purely retaliation for the American move. I actually think China would have been better not to do that. However, the Chinese have to be seen to retaliate. Otherwise, America will just think they can do what they want to without any consequences. Now, my second point is I want to try and get to the real reason why America are attacking China in the way they are. And my belief on this is it's nothing to do with national security. It's nothing to do with espionage. And I think Pompeo sort of highlighted this in his speech. He basically said that, when we opened up to China, America was hoping to change China. What he really meant, they were hoping to install an American democracy-style government into China. And, that is just not going to happen. It was never going to happen, and it never is going to happen. And the reason they want to do that, because if you look at America, which has become controlled by the ultra-capitalists, so if you look at things in America, whether it be real estate, whether it be, companies, whether it be land, it's all open to the highest bidder, and Chinese own a huge amount of farmland, property, even the politicians in America can be bought at the right price. And this is something America have not been able to do in China because China protects its interests. They don't let the Americans or anybody else for that matter come in and buy up companies that are strategically important to the country. They don't let them buy huge amounts of land. China protect their interests, whereas America and other Western countries are controlled much more by the ultra capitalists who, to be honest, anything is for sale to the highest bidder. So actually, this is not a problem that China have caused. It's a problem that America have caused. Yeah. And then you get on to, just 2 more minutes, you get on to then Trump is looking like he's not going to get re-elected. So he's becoming a very, very desperate man at the moment. I mean, this guy is a guy who tweeted out something a couple of nights ago that he now wants to try to delay the election. This goes against the American Constitution, but he sees that he's losing and he wants to delay the election. Of course he wants to delay the election till they've tried to get on top of the disaster they've made of the COVID outbreak. The COVID problem in America is nothing to do with China. It's to do with the incompetence of the US administration. So he's just trying to divert that now. He's trying to get into the heads of the American people that, all this COVID problem is China's fault. Well, actually, it's not China's fault. It's the fault of the US administration. So, there's a lot of, yeah, absolutely. And there's just so many things that are wrong here, and America are just trying to create massive diversions to cover up their own incompetencies here.
Listen, I want to move on to Cyrus. Cyrus, I want to get your take on this. And I think there's a lot of people out there that want to know, what is Cyrus thinking about this? So Give us your best, brother. Tell us what you think about this closures of the consulates.
This is something that's really interesting. So first of all, I do want to make a small correction. It is a consulate, not the embassy. And there is, obviously we know the difference there, but the embassy is, certainly in the capital city, consulates in the smaller and the other cities. And we have multiple consulates, just like we do. Americans have multiple consulates in China. There's multiple Chinese consulates. And the consulate is dealing with smaller affairs, a lot of immigration, visas, et cetera, like that. So it's an interesting move. I agree with everything that's been said. It's certainly the United States. They're wanting to take a shot at China, and they're able to do that by closing a consulate. Obviously, closing an embassy would be a huge deal because that would essentially really sever the foreign relationship between the two countries. Consulate is just more like a slap across the face, if you will. Obviously, it goes without saying, China's going to retaliate, and they did that in Chengdu, as we saw, which is actually a very strategic point for America, because that's really the whole western side of China is operated from from Chengdu. So it was a great move from China to retaliate that way. This is something though that we see often, is that I always see is America is the instigator and China's always retaliating. So it just seems if tit for tat, right? If you're going to do this, I'm going to go back. Now, to answer some of those questions, we've established that it's a consulate. Now, it was actually established in 1979. Lee, you were asking when was that established? Over 40 years. And
a long time.
A long time. And it's just ludicrous. It's absolutely ludicrous to just say, this has been in operation for 40 years. But now, oh my gosh, now we have espionage and we have spying activity. Now, let's be honest. Does China have spies? Absolutely they do. Absolutely. What major country in the world doesn't have spies?
Which major business doesn't have spies? Think about that.
Does China have spies? Absolutely. But what is the CIA? That is literally, what is the CIA, right? It's the Central Intelligence Agency. It's literally what it is a network of spies,
The Central Spy Agency, right?
Oh, 100%. And we're just living in La La Land if we're going to deny that. Of course it 100% is. And, it's interesting. I watched Pompeo's speech and it's very interesting what's happening in America right now, because I have a lot of family, a lot of friends in America. Of course, I am from Florida, a state that is being absolutely hammered by COVID right now. And it's incredible just, what my home state is, my friends and family are going through. And they just can't, they can't actually believe what's happening in China. I told them that, I don't know if you guys saw that the second quarter economy, China grew by 3%, U.S. down by 32% drop in the GDP, in the second quarter. It's absolutely getting hammered, whereas China grew. China's right back to going, it has really, taken COVID, they've dealt with it, they've moved on, but a lot of it's government policy, but it's also the people as well. And I made a video about that, just about the culture of America. And we have a lot of things going on in America, the Black Lives Matter, the protests, there's so many different things that are going on. It's really a perfect storm that is really just a big wrecking ball to America right now. I think Donald Trump is in a lot of pressure. I believe that, this is why in March, he said it was the first time that he called it the China virus. And even one of my American friends messaged me and they said, I feel he's doing this on purpose now, specifically saying the China virus. And we see Pompeo every day. If you watch him on Twitter or if you follow the Secretary of the Department of State Twitter feed, every day they're just putting out, let's call it what it is. It's propaganda. It's just saying, America, we stand tall in the face of danger and all world threats. It's like, no, you don't. Look at what's going on in COVID right now. You guys have the worst response in the world. And, and it was amazing. He's just like, Pompeo, I think is just amazing how much hate he is causing up. We have in my hometown of Orlando, Florida, we had two Chinese dentists that this is in my hometown. Both of them are dentists, part of the community. They're Asian Americans. They're Chinese American citizens. Their whole lives are there. They've come out of their house and their entire cars, both of them completely graffitied, China, go back to China, just completely ruin both cars. And we've just see this racism, increasing. And, it's becoming to a point right now where it's so dangerous for the United States to go down this route because of the type of, in America, what we have is just, we're just seeing this huge increase in racism. And it's amazing because what we're going to see is people are not going to want to come to America anymore. And we're not talking about just Chinese. Do you think Japanese or Korean are going to feel safe there either? I mean, all Asians are going to start to feel, threatened. And this is going to affect everything. America has been an amazing country because it's recruited talent from around the world. That's going to change tremendously right now. Chinese families have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars prepping their kids in SAT prep courses, basically trying to get to American universities. And this year, many of them are pulling the plug. It's like, we're not going there. It's way too much danger. We can go elsewhere, but we're not going to America. And I think I do want to, sorry for taking so much time, but I do want to follow up on Pompeo's speech that Lee had mentioned as well, when he was saying, we wanted to open up China. We wanted to open up China and install this form of government in this democracy.
Yeah, it's just a joke.
Well, it is a joke, but here's what I think the bottom line is I think that in America's eyes, they saw an opportunity back in the 70s. They said, look, we can open up China and we can manufacture in China. We can use China to our advantage, which they did. What they did is they manufactured all of their products. And let's be honest, because of their relationship with China, the American dream has been made possible, right? But the issue is America has never looked at China as an equal. They always look to them as a secondary country. And now China threatens that. China is an equal, and it's going to be actually better than America very soon. And that is something that people cannot take in America. And that is why you have to attack them. And the other thing is, and this is my last point, and then I'll go, is, in America, we always have to have an enemy, and this is where, we see it's almost like Superman or Batman, right? It's not a good film unless there's an enemy involved. And so with America, you always have to have the enemy. We had the Soviet Union during the Cold War time. Obviously, during the 90s and 2000s, we had the weapons of mass destruction, the Middle East. There's no credible, enemy left except China. I mean, that's the only one that could actually be an enemy. So we're going to make China our enemy. We're going to go to war, and they're going down that path right now. And it's tough to see.